things fired off here. My name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint AI. Welcome to gold, Bitcoin, and the stock market. Right? We're going to be talking about several of those assets today, digging into the details, doing some analysis. But let me just make sure from a streaming standpoint we're up and running and everything is working as designed, and make sure that our stream is operating the right way. Looks like we may be good to go here. If you can hear me and I'm coming through to your speakers okay, do me a favor and just let me know into the chat. We're streaming both on Facebook and on YouTube this morning. So if you're in either one of those platforms, just let me know everything's working on your side and you can see everything and you can hear everything. If that's the case, then hop into that chat and let me know that it's working for you. I'm gonna pop a little chat in and make sure our chat functions are working and we are good to go. All right. Perfect. Again, my name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint AI, and we're going to just walk through some of the forecasts that we see in several of the different assets. Not only am I going to be talking about stocks, I'll take a look at some analysis on Bitcoin, on gold. There's been a lot of news, a lot of conversation, a lot of activity going on in those markets. So as long as we can get everything working on our side and we're broadcasting okay, which looks like we might be. Let me just double check here. Hey, Barbaro, looks like we're good there. Nice to have you in the session. Should be up and running here pretty well. Just do some quick cross-checking on my side. Thank you for being here. Good, looking good, looking good. That's fantastic. All right, looks good. If you're in this session, get involved in the session. I always say that. I always say that if you're here to learn something, then by all means, please jump into the session and get involved. Hey, RotoClip, glad you're here watching us on YouTube. That's fantastic. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, jump into the YouTube channel, subscribe over there, and make sure that you're on the notifications so that this way you can get the notifications as things happen here on this YouTube channel and on the Facebook page. Let me just share my screen here. I'm just going to take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to dive in and go into the details. One of the important things that I want to make sure that we're thinking about and we're talking about is what could happen in the Bitcoin market at this point. That's how I like to look at things all the time from a risk management standpoint. By the way, if you're joining this session, just a quick reminder that these are educational sessions. I'm in no way providing any trading advice. It's always important that you use good money management, manage your risk in the markets, because trading is hard. If you don't manage risk and you're just thinking about the gains, you find yourself in some tough spots and certainly don't want that. So also I may share some user experiences with you today, and I'm doing that to share with you what other people have said about this technology. So we are going to dive in, and here's a chart for Bitcoin. And by the way, in case anybody hasn't seen this chart before, what I'm looking at is some predictive indicators that I like to walk through on a daily basis. This information updates 1 to 3 days in advance and provides information about where the trends are expected to go with high degrees of accuracy. And I'm going to show you some of that stuff right now. So just bear with me for a second while I do that, and we'll dig into the details here. All right, let's see. Let me grab a pen. I think we'll be able to draw on the screen. There we go. So the first bullish Bitcoin forecast that we had earlier this year was back here when this crossover happened. This is the blue line crossing the gray line. This is a prediction of when the artificial intelligence said that Bitcoin was expected to go higher. It's an artificial intelligence forecast that was generated by the global market analysis. And it was also confirmed with another indicator. This is a predicted neural index saying that we had short-term bullishness, and then we also had some predicted momentum leading into this day. This is the perfect setup for a bullish forecast. Now, obviously, we're going back to the beginning of the year. We're in January. We're already, it's what, March 12th. And we're talking about this forecast being from We had a forecast on 126. So as you look at that, on January 26th, the artificial intelligence clearly indicated this trend was expected to move higher over the next 3 days. And you can see it did exactly that. We got higher prices over the next 3 days, so that forecast was certainly accurate. As this blue line stays above that black line, or gray line I should say, and that shaded area stays green the entire way through this, even when it comes down and touches, it's okay. That's indicating some short-term consolidation, but we never had that shaded area turn red. And the reason I'm walking through this is so that you understand when I look on the right-hand side of the chart what it is I'm looking for. I'm looking for where that blue line is compared to that gray line, and more importantly, what that shading is between those two lines. And when I look at this information, it's clearly telling me that there's bullishness in this market. Now, does that mean that the market's going to go straight up? No, absolutely not. Take a look. The blue line was above here, and this was a big down day. That's going to happen. There's always going to be down days and uptrends. There's several of them throughout this uptrend, so there's no concern about having a down day or a pullback during an uptrend. The VantagePoint artificial intelligence software here on Bitcoin is indicating short-term bullishness from a trend standpoint as well. It's also predicting a higher high and a higher low. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be an up day. It means that there's overall bullishness expected in price. And I think everybody can see that on the screen. If you have a problem seeing that, or you're not quite sure what I mean, just hop into the chat and let me know that you're not quite sure. Maybe you're not seeing it. Maybe you're not clear on what I'm explaining, but I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can, and we're seeing some certain bullishness. And by the way, if you're in this session and you're a VantagePoint family members, let me know that as well. If you've already got the VantagePoint software, I'd love to hear from you, because at the end of the day, this training and this information is designed for everyone, and I'd love to know who's in attendance at this point. All right, so we've got some bullishness expectations from Bitcoin overall from a trend standpoint, so no question about that. The neural index over here on the right is a strength indicator. It's green, just like it was back here, indicating short-term strength. I consider all these indicators separately, by the way. And then we'll walk through some of these charts. Like I say, I'm going to cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold. We'll look at several different charts, including the SPY, the NASDAQ, and including some of the other markets as well. If we get a chance to, Akshaya, we can look at IWM once we get into the overall indices portion of today's live. But I've got it noted. I appreciate that. All right, so when we look at this, we can see that there is certainly bullishness expected here. There's certainly bullishness here and here. So we're not expecting a trend reversal on Bitcoin at this point today. And why I say that that's important is because there could always be some down days and an uptrend, but an overall trend reversal is something that we're on the lookout for. When we look at the momentum indicators, take a look at the difference in momentum. You can see leading into this forecast down here, we had some nice, strong, bullish sloping momentum lines. This is predicted momentum. These are called predictive differences. Well, if you compare that to what we've got over here on the right-hand side, right? Everybody should be able to see this over here. We don't necessarily have that. We've got some consolidation happening from momentum and even some short-term bearishness. So the momentum is peeling off of Bitcoin for the short term. It doesn't mean, again, that VantagePoint is indicating that Bitcoin is expected to reverse. What this means is if we've got some resistance pushing down on price up here, we could see that lack of momentum causing price to stagnate or stall. So I can put on some momentum indicators there, some resistance and support indicators on here and see if we've got it. We don't from a short-term resistance standpoint, but we do have a 52-week high. The 52-week high was set yesterday at 72,789. That is a price level that is important to understand. And the reason I say that is because with momentum, and this is just good for everybody to understand, that with momentum peeling off, when you have momentum peeling off of this like this, and you've got a new resistance level, or in this case, a 52-week high set on the chart, that's going to cause prices to stagnate a moment. It doesn't mean that we can't have higher highs or higher lows. As a matter of fact, you usually do see higher highs and higher lows. Usually what you end up seeing when you see momentum peeling off like this from a prediction standpoint is a candle that looks a little bit like a doji, a little indecision candle, something like that, usually right around that resistance level. When you see that kind of candle appear up here, you know that that is because momentum caused a little bit of a pullback. And I got to tell you, nothing is perfect, right? VantagePoint's forecast and accuracy up to 87.4%. But when you can read these indicators like this, and they're predictive indicators, and you can see they're not in 100% agreement with overall bullishness, well, then you know that there is expected some pullback. So we protect our downside. We make sure we set, some stop losses. If this is a position that you're not just a long-term investor in, but you're trading this opportunity, then you can set some stop losses. A good stop loss from my perspective could be anywhere below this level. This is the low of the 3 days before yesterday, and I can see the low is 68,628 on this day right here. 66, excuse me, that was a close. The low is 66,617. So when I'm looking at this information to protect the downside, because remember, I started this conversation today saying trading is hard. You got to manage your risk. So we can set a good stop loss there and give the market some room to wiggle, because we are expecting a little bit of consolidation based on the momentum pulling off. So that's what at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. That's not really a good 6, but there we go. That's what I saw. Everybody could have seen that. If you've got the VantagePoint software and you looked at Bitcoin last night or this morning, you probably would have come up with the same conclusion. Now I'm using what's called the 4 points of confirmation, which is the crossover, the predicted neural index, the predicted differences, and the predicted high and predicted low. We call it that because that's where we start all of our analysis using the artificial intelligence. And based on what Bitcoin is telling us, we have some bullishness still left in this, but there's a little bit of a pullback expected, and prices are expected to stay somewhere around where they closed. Just a quick cross check, taking a look at where Bitcoin is right now, 71,929. 71,929. Yesterday's close was 72,040. So as I said, right there around yesterday's close, and that's where the prices are today. That's the benefit in using this information. As a matter of fact, for those of you that have never seen this before, let me show you something. I want to show you how these forecasts are so accurate. I'm going to go right into the market details for this and show you what the analysis is being done on, what kind of information the artificial intelligence is looking at when trying to consider what's forecasting or what's indicating Bitcoin's change in price. Here it is. Look, if you look at this, you can see right here on Bitcoin, right in the middle of the screen, it says Bitcoin. This is showing you the market that the AI is analyzing to figure out what is influencing this price. Sorry for the screen jumping around a little bit there. But when you look at this, you can see that it's looking at Litecoin. It's looking at Ripple. So naturally, it's looking at other cryptocurrencies. And what this is saying is that the AI is saying these other cryptocurrencies are having an impact on the price of Bitcoin. They're driving, influencing, and impacting. Now, a lot of traders out there would naturally say, well, Bitcoin drives all of these. Yeah, you're probably right. But that doesn't mean that the price movements of these other cryptocurrencies don't drive Bitcoin. And as a matter of fact, the artificial intelligence in this case is saying they absolutely do. For those of you that don't know, this is patented technology. This is called intermarket analysis, and we hold a patent on this. It says there is nobody else in the world that's doing global market analysis like this. And I say global because look, here's the euro, right? Here's the Japanese yen. This is having an influence on what these markets are having an influence on what Bitcoin is doing, as well as MicroStrategy. That's important. We're going to talk about MicroStrategy today, but that is also influencing Bitcoin's price, and that makes total sense. Just like Mara, here's a cannabis stock and Scott's Miracle Grow, some ETFs, right? The ARK FinTech Innovation ETF, right? There's a lot of things that are on this diagram that show you that these markets, there's over 30 markets here, could drive Bitcoin up, sideways, or down, and each one of these is weighted by degree of impact. And the reason I'm walking through it at this pace is so that if anybody is here in this session, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube and you're looking at this and you're wondering, how can the artificial intelligence forecast be so accurate? Here's how. This kind of analysis is being done on every asset in VantagePoint every single day, and that's why I like to use it day in and day out to do my analysis here. So at 6:30 last night Eastern time, you could see all the information that I'm seeing here. In addition to that, I even have the ability to add some predicted momentum indicators. I'm going to add a couple on here right now, and they're going to be %R and RSI. These are predicted momentum indicators, which means you can't get these anywhere else in the world. Yes, you can get RSI and %R and so many other platforms. 100%, I don't disagree with you. But in the VantagePoint software, you get it as a predictive indicator because it's been enhanced with that analysis, that intermarket analysis that I just showed you, which turned this into a one-day prediction. So you can see %R is peeling off a little bit, RSI is increasing a little bit, which means from a momentum standpoint, it agrees with the VantagePoint proprietary momentum indicators and saying consolidation is expected, sideways move is expected today based on what we're seeing on this chart. So what I've got on here is, support and resistance, some predicted momentum indicators that are proprietary called the predictive differences here, and RSI and %R, which are also predictive, all saying the same thing, right? I love what you're saying, your question, Akshaya, which is interesting. What Bitcoin has to do with US Silica? Isn't that an oil driller? That's the great part about this analysis. I don't know why that stock is there and it's influencing Bitcoin, if you will. I don't need to know that either, right? What I need to know is that the AI has figured out that there is some hidden pattern and relationship. There's some influence here that is driving Bitcoin. I use the iceberg analogy. I'm gonna draw a bad iceberg over here. Here's the water line. Here's the top of an iceberg, right? Here's the bottom of the iceberg. The majority of the ice is below the waterline. What you can see as a trader is the ice that's above the waterline. What the artificial intelligence can see is not only the ice above the waterline, but can also see the influencing factors that are invisible to the naked eye. That's the power of AI. It has the ability to process massive amounts of data and see things that we just can't see. Again, this is a patented technology, and this is exactly why this technology is so valuable. For those of you that trade the cryptocurrencies and have a crypto account set up and you're holding Bitcoin, you can see that you can expect some consolidation today. Protect your downside, but at the end of the day, there's nothing here that's scaring us from Bitcoin. For those of you that don't trade cryptocurrencies, you can access this information through GBTC. This is an ETF, it's Bitcoin Investment Trust. It's called GBTC. And you can see the forecast on GBTC came just after the Bitcoin forecast. 129, GBTC had bullish forecast on the trend and the predictive differences and the momentum. Everything was saying bullish. You might ask the question, why was it on the 29th and Bitcoin was maybe the day before that? I need to go look back and see what day was Bitcoin again. The 26th, 27th. Well, GBTC is a derivative of Bitcoin. So yeah, the market that pushes and influences the market that you're looking at would probably move first, right? That's why you see Bitcoin move first and then GBTC move after that. Regardless, all the way through this uptrend, we've had bullishness. Even up until today, we still have some bullishness. But what this is saying on GBTC, when you look at this, is you can see that there is a lower low expected on this asset, meaning we've got a higher high and a lower low forecasted, which means we've got an outside bar. Can you guys jump into the chat box and tell me when you see you see an outside bar, meaning an outside candle, or where the high is higher than the previous day's high and the low is lower than the previous day's low? Can you tell me, right? Can you tell me what that means? Go to the chat box right now, Facebook, YouTube. Let me know, comment on this and let me know if you know what an outside bar traditionally indicates. Now remember, in VantagePoint, this isn't a traditional outside bar. This is a prediction of the next day's trading range. An outside bar indicates consolidation. Indicates if you have a higher high and a lower low, you're indicating that there is, some consolidation or sideways movement expected here. Well, yesterday was a little down day after that big gap up. We still have some strength in the overall trend. And you can see that from a momentum standpoint, we got one momentum indicator saying bullish, one saying bearish, and one consolidated. So momentum in this case as well is also stagnant. Thank you, John and Linda, for commenting. I see your comment. It says should go up. An outside bar, meaning you've got a higher high and a lower low, indicates consolidation or volatility or indecision. How about we call it that, right? I like to call it consolidation because that usually means that there's a move or a breakout expected to happen. I'm going to put support and resistance on here and just see. We don't have a resistance level per se where the candle closed yesterday, which means we likely have a 52-week high, and we do. So just like Bitcoin on GBTC, which is the Bitcoin Investment Trust, you also have a 52-week high being hit with momentum peeling off. I'm not going to pop quiz you again, I'll just tell you, but with momentum peeling off, when you set a higher high, with momentum peeling off, you can expect more consolidation. So that paired with the outside bar that VantagePoint is predicting and the predicted momentum peeling off, heck, we'll go put on, let's put on MACD and no, what was it, RSI and %R. That's what we looked at before. I'm just going to put those two on there so we can do a little bit of analysis here. With those on there, you can see that we've got a little bit better scenario than Bitcoin where they both have a positive slope to those oscillators. Both RSI is moving higher, %R is moving higher, saying we could expect a little bit more strength or a little less weakness, but still consolidation for GBTC. For those of you that trade ETFs and stocks, you can see right here over my shoulder that VantagePoint is forecasting some consolidation with overall bullishness over the next few days, which provides you some really, really great information when it comes down to managing positions. Again, managing positions means take a look at the 3 days before that, set a good stop loss, protect your downside. Even if you get a major reversal, right? Even if something comes out of the blue and you get stopped out at that low that I was talking about from the 72 hours previous, that's a 52% gain. 52% gain with 500 shares is about a $10,000 hypothetical profit in this example from the time the artificial intelligence forecasted this up. And that's right, I said a hypothetical example because we're talking about from the beginning of this forecast until a hypothetical stop out point here if that were to happen, but it doesn't look like that's expected to happen at any point today, call it 59. So all in all, VantagePoint's giving me great confidence in the Bitcoin trade and the Bitcoin trend to say, you know what, keep an eye on this. There's some volatility going on here, but no major reversal expected currently. That lasts for a couple of days. This is not a 1 week, 1 month, 3 month. This is not a monthly, weekly forecast. Remember, when you think about forecasting, even using artificial intelligence, the further you get away from today's date in the future, the lower the accuracy is in that forecast. That's why, from a weather standpoint, you see the weather, for instance, change. 10 days out, it says rain. And as you get closer, 7 days out, it says rain, but not as much. And then 3 days out, it might have no chance of rain. That's because the closer you get to that date, the more accurate that forecast can be. That's how forecasting works. So we're going to go out up to 72 hours in advance, nothing further than that in this software, and we can see that we've got some consolidation, but overall still some bullishness left in this for the middle part of this week. Here is MicroStrategy, why this is important. Does anybody know the benefit to knowing about MicroStrategy, this stock, when it comes down to Bitcoin? If you do, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Let me know why I'm even highlighting MicroStrategy when it comes to Bitcoin. Remember, this was one of the intermarkets. This is one of the markets that was found to influence the share price of Bitcoin. This isn't so much a hidden pattern. This is more one of those surface level ones, if you know why. But you can see that there was a forecast to the bullish side right here in MicroStrategy on 129. 129. When I say 129, what I'm saying is after Bitcoin started moving higher. Again, go back to that date. That was 126. Hey, Lane, thank you for that. Nice to hear from you. I see you in the chat. Glad you're here and listen. Yeah, Michael Saylor, there you go, Barbaro, has it on his balance sheet. Not only does he have it on his balance sheet, go take a look at how much MicroStrategy, how many Bitcoin MicroStrategy holds. You can Google it and just say, how many Bitcoins does MicroStrategy hold? And Google will tell you the answer to that question, and you'll see why it almost mirrors the Bitcoin chart. The difference in this information, the difference in what this is saying is you can see that VantagePoint is predicting a lower high and a lower low today for MicroStrategy, the stock. So far we've looked at Bitcoin, the coin, we've looked at GBTC, the investment trust, and now we're looking at a stock that has a high correlation and drives and influences Bitcoin, and Bitcoin drives and influences. What you're able to see here are real-time market correlations that are being analyzed by intermarket analysis. I'm using a lot of big words there to describe this, but at the end of the day, what I'm saying is markets drive markets. The AI can figure out which ones and how much. You, or me in this case, I get to benefit from the artificial intelligence forecast generated from that AI, because all of that power can help a whole lot of traders in the markets. And I know our VantagePoint family members, which is what we call our users, get the benefit of this day in and day out. By the way, if you haven't seen this before, or you're interested in getting some questions answered, obviously you can jump into the chat or just go to VantagePointForecast.com. We'll put it in the chat if it's not already there. VantagePointForecast.com means you can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody like me or somebody on my team. But nonetheless, let's pop on some of those other indicators that we were talking about earlier. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a quick default, just so that every time we look at a chart going forward, we'll have our support and resistance on here. We'll have some of our predictive indicators like predictive RSI and percent R on here. Where's the 52-week? Let's throw the 52-week. There we go. Yesterday as well. So all the Bitcoin assets that we're analyzing had a 52-week high yesterday. And at the same time, take a look. Momentum peeling off on all of the ones we've looked at from a Bitcoin standpoint. A new 52-week high with momentum peeling off tells you that you could see prices stagnate, consolidate, move sideways. VantagePoint predicted a lower high and a lower low, so we would see things to, from a trading standpoint, right dead center of that candle. I would not be surprised to see MicroStrategy levitate right where it is, right where my pink scribble is, all day. And that's simply because the intermarket analysis, the real-time market correlations are telling us they influence each other. You can visibly see it. Momentum is peeling off with a new 52-week high yesterday. I've got all the information I need to know that there is some weakening in that bullish trend, if you will. Let me just get my mic adjusted here so I don't bang it around. Here we go. Hopefully everybody can see that and understands what I'm looking at. This kind of analysis can be done very, very quickly, as you can tell. I'm teaching it, I'm showing it, I'm using it on this session. We've spent about 25 minutes walking through it, and I bet you understand it already. If you're a VantagePoint family member and you're a user, go to the chat box. Let me know that this is information that's helping you understand the interpretation of the indicators more. And if you're not a user, go to the chat box and tell me if you understand it. I love feedback. This is a live session. I can sit here and talk to you, for as long as you want me to, but I would prefer you jump in and I provide you information that would be valuable for you, something you might want to see. Let's move on, though, while you're doing that. Moving on to Ethereum. Why am I moving on to Ethereum? Well, look at the trend in this cryptocurrency. From the forecast to yesterday's close, and I say close, end of the day, with one coin, you've got a $1,700 increase in price, or a 73% change in price from the forecast, which happened 1:30, 3 days after that Bitcoin forecast, and hasn't stopped since, right? Let me go back. I'm going to go ahead and save this as a default chart layout so that I can apply it to all the other charts I have on this. Let's see. Let's go load from default, and now it's going to automatically add all those indicators. And I'm going to go in here and just apply them to all as well. This way, every other chart that we've got in here will have them. All right. Just some quick navigational tips. Now this way, any other chart we look at, you'll be able to see that. All right. Well, what do we have here? We have a resistance level set before that 52-week high. So we have a resistance level up here, and then prices pushed past it and then fell a little bit. I would expect totally from this to see prices right between those, like right between that resistance level and that 52-week high. All right. So here's what I mean. VantagePoint shows a high of 4,086 yesterday and a resistance level of 3,994. 3,994. I could see Ethereum hanging out right around there, maybe a little bit less. You know, the idea here is that we've got a lot of resistance pushing down on price. We've got a resistance level, we got a 52-week high. We need to go look at momentum and see if momentum is countering that resistance. See, the way I see it is like a push and pull. I see a push and pull because resistance is pushing down from a 52-week high and a resistance level standpoint, but overall price is trying to push up. So is momentum going to help resistance or price? That's how I look at this. So we're going to use our AI sentiment process. Why I say AI sentiment? Because that process is something we use to layer on these predictive indicators that are generated from the AI to get a view. See, there was somebody famous that said, don't trade off of what you think or feel, trade off of what you see. And you can try to figure out who that is, or you might already know who that is. I like to enhance it a little bit. Don't trade off of what you think or feel, trade off of what you see with AI. And the reason I like that enhancement is because as I walk through this, I want a sentiment. You've heard of trader sentiment, you've heard of market sentiment. I want an AI sentiment. So I'm going to use the AI indicators here and see. I have momentum on the VantagePoint proprietary indicators peeling off here. I say peeling off because you can see the high on that momentum was there and this line's moving down. Same thing on the 2-day momentum indicator. This is a 3-day, this is a 2-day, and the 1-day, heck, it started peeling off back here. So what this is telling me is momentum is working with resistance down. Momentum's not pushing against it, it's working with it. So momentum and resistance are fighting against price. Who's going to win that battle? Who's going to win that battle? Who do you think would win that battle? Right? Momentum and resistance pushing down. So we'll see this on the lower side of things today. We might even get a close below that resistance level, which means Ethereum could stagnate for a couple of days. And this is the analysis that I had at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night, because that's when all of this updated. So going into today, I wasn't too concerned with what was going to happen because I had this information already at my disposal. We're seeing, of course, some weakness, right? VantagePoint predicted a higher high and a higher low, but overall weakness on the short term. The overall trend is still expected to move higher. We got bullishness in this trend. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm using the trend predictions along with the predicted momentum to say, what am I expecting today? And I am expecting a higher high. I'm expecting a higher low, but I'm also expecting a weak day because resistance and momentum are pushing down on price. And it's 2 against 1, all right? Price is by itself out there. Same thing like we did with Bitcoin. We can hop over to Ethereum. This is Grayscale Ethereum, right? Same idea. You can see I've got my indicators on here, and you could probably read them by now and say the overall trend is expected to be higher. I do have a little bit of flattening in this predicted trend right here. You can see this line was nice strong slope up and it's starting to round a little bit. Predicted lower low, predicted lower high on this Grayscale Ethereum Trust, which means we have more weakness in this than what we have in Ethereum. So we can expect a bigger pullback in this today, especially if we've got a 52-week high creating a resistance, which we do. I can put the line on there if you want me to, and momentum falling off, which we do. So we've got everything that we need to see certainly a bearish day today. Heck, VantagePoint's predicting prices could be down around that 33 mark. This could be even further. And the reason I say that is because that trend predictor is the weakest one we've seen today. Here's a short-term trend prediction saying, yeah, this is almost a flat line on the 1 day, which means that consolidation with lack of momentum and resistance pushing down means price isn't even pushing up. This chart says the trend is still expected to move higher. I don't want anybody to think I'm not saying that. I am saying that. But today's performance, today's price movement is expected to be extremely weak on this ETF. And hopefully everybody understands what I mean by that, because you can have down days and uptrends. Down days can have a little hand in how whether or not this trend is expected to reverse. But all in all, what we're seeing is a very weak market from ETHE today, which is a stock trader's delight when you're talking about writing some covered calls, when you're talking about buying some short-term puts and things like that. Today had a great opportunity to grab gains with those alternative trading methods. All right, that's cryptocurrency, that's Bitcoin, that's Ethereum. I'm going to move on to gold now, unless there's some questions that you might have. If you have a question, hop into the chat and let me know you've got a question there. And I'll be happy to answer that question related to Bitcoin or one of the assets that we've covered so far. While you do that, I'm going to get a quick drink of water here. Obviously, this is a live session. I do a lot of talking and just want to make sure I give you guys a chance as well to jump into the chat and get any questions you might want answered. All right, great. Don't see anything yet. So let's keep this live moving, shall we? Right? All right, so here's gold. Now, I've got the same indicators applied onto gold. Hopefully everybody can see those. And the reason I applied them to gold is just so that the analysis that we've done so far to this point isn't lost and we can dig in on gold. So I'm going to zoom in here on the gold forecast. Here is the gold forecast. Here is the moment that we see that bullishness. As a matter of fact, I can go check the short-term crossover and see what that looks like. Really great. Still some consolidation happening. We see that. We have an outside bar or candle again. Higher high expected, lower low expected for gold. So that's something that we've got to think about as well. We've got to make sure that we're prepared for that kind of move. But more importantly, with a lower low, we got to take a look at the fact that this was a resistance level set up here. A 52-week high was set up here in gold. Look at that. The high yesterday was 22,003, and I'll put that on there. Let me put the 52-week look back on here. This is important. Why is this so important? It's all-time high, 52-week high with a failure. Krish, did you say, can you go long on gold? Well, I got to ask you a question, Krish. With a 52-week high, an all-time high being set right here, and yesterday a resistance failure, price could not get up to that high. We got an indecision candle at the same time. Momentum, predicted momentum peeled off of these. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what I mean. Let me make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Look at the momentum indicators. This one is lower. Percent R, predicted momentum, is bearish. This is consolidating. This is bearish. This is bearish. And this is consolidating to bullish. So we've got a lot of bearishness in gold. Last night at 6:30, VantagePoint was indicating a really great short opportunity on gold for a short-term trade. Why? What happens when you set a new high? The next day, prices can't get back to that high and momentum starts to peel back. And these indicators are telling me we can expect that, and that would set up a really great shorting opportunity for a great day trade today on gold. What we'd be looking for to take advantage of something like that is an open somewhere around 2190. For you day traders, listen up. If you like to day trade the futures markets, this is a one-day momentum indicator. This is a one-day predicted momentum indicator. This is a one-day predicted momentum indicator. This is a one-day predicted trend indicator. This is one-day high, one-day low. This is two-day momentum. So if I'm looking at my one-day indicators with the fact that we had a 52-week high and we had the fact that we had momentum peeling off of this, a great short trading opportunity as long as we get an open around 2190, something like that. I don't know where gold opened, so I need to go look at this. Let's go see where gold opened today. Open, open, open. Here we go. 2189. There you go. Got asked for a 2190. We got a 2189. A dollar off. Got the open we would have wanted to short the opportunity on gold and ride that thing down. At this point, if you haven't hit your target on a short-term day trade to the downside, what's your target? Do you have the right target? Because there was a great prediction using these one-day indicators to identify it. This, again, I'm not saying this is predicting a trend reversal. Don't confuse the two. One-day price movements and trend reversals are different. VantagePoint is not predicting an overall trend reversal yet at this point. There's still bullishness in the trend. There's just some weakness that has entered that bullish trend that we got to keep an eye on. And you can always take advantage of some short-term weakness from a counter-trend day trade or something like that, depending on your trading strategy. Again, I'm not providing trading advice. This is from an educational standpoint. You've got to be able to use these predictive indicators to help you maximize your income, whether you're trading options, you're buying or selling the underlying asset, right? Shorting the futures, going long different. It doesn't matter the strategy or the asset. Interpreting these predictive indicators generated from the AI can really, really help. And if you're not a futures trader, that's okay. Go look at GLD. Go take a look at GLD and you'll see a very, very similar setup from a GLD standpoint. The only difference with GLD is if you don't get an open somewhere around yesterday's close, then the likelihood that you get a fill goes down. The likelihood that you want a fill, in my opinion, goes down. And why do I say that? Because if you don't get an open around 201, which is on the bottom half of that bar, I would even say I'd like to see an open around 202 to trade that from a short side standpoint today. If I don't get that, it's not worth the risk, the time, the money. I'm not going to chase this bearishness of this day. The futures market, sure, great opportunity because there's not a big gap opportunity there. But if gold runs down pre-market, then the gold ETF, GLD, will gap down. If it gaps down and it doesn't open anywhere near 202, then forget about it. Go find something else to do. I always say sometimes the best trade is the one you didn't take, right? Because if it reverses on you or you do something silly like chase a trade, it could very quickly go the other way, and now you're left holding the bag. In that case, you're left with some losses, right? Let's see, RGLD. We'll take a look at RGLD here in a second. Here's IAG, IM Gold. I don't know if that's one that you look at or see, but you can see we got the same kind of condition where we actually have a resistance level up here at $3.29, and we have a 52-week high from yesterday's high at 322 on IAG, which means I need to look at momentum because prices are still pushing higher here. Let me go to my short-term predicted and trend predictor. I see still prices pushing higher. My long-term prices pushing higher. So the only thing that causes me to be cautious is the fact that momentum is stagnated and reversed a little bit. Is this expected to be as low? No. Could I use a stop loss here, say around $3 off of that 72-hour low? Sure, you can, depending on whether you use that one or the predicted low. Some people will use this resistance level as a stop loss point. I'm not telling you where to put your stop loss. All I'm saying is that using a stop loss in this scenario can protect your downside because you'd be able to lock in either 13% using that or lock in 20% using that as a stop loss. One of them probably would have gotten stopped out today at $3. One of them probably not. You're probably not going to complain about making 20% gain getting stopped out at $3 if you were able to use this predictive information. Krish, I'm not providing trading advice, so you can stop asking. I love the questions. Krish is asking, can we go long on BTC at 69.5? Krish, if I was your financial advisor, I was giving advice, that'd probably be something I could answer. That's a question that you're going to have to answer. You're asking about 69.5. 69.5 is down here at the bottom of this. You can make the decision to go long wherever you want. What VantagePoint is saying is that we're expecting some weakness on Bitcoin, and we need to see that momentum reverse to feel confident about that trend going up strong here in the next couple of days. There's always some fundamentals about Bitcoin. I'm not analyzing the fundamentals, even though, let me tell you guys for a second. Let's just stop. Think about this. Thank you, Krish. Got it. Think about this. There are a lot of Bitcoin ETFs that have come up lately, right? The BlackRock ETF, Fidelity has an ETF. These are some of the biggest Bitcoin holding ETFs out there. They're newer ETFs, along with GBTC. Those are, I think, the top 3 ETFs out there. Well, guess what? The introduction of those ETFs into those organizations and those platforms has brought a lot of interest to Bitcoin. So fundamentally, We've seen Bitcoin charge up the mountain all the way up. You know, yesterday's high was what? So where's yesterday's high? Where are we at? 72,789. Do you think those ETFs being created had something to do with that? Absolutely. Do you think the Bitcoin halving coming up April 21st has something to do with that? Absolutely. Go take a look at that information, because with retirement accounts, with investment accounts now getting access to Bitcoin through ETFs that were just recently created, there is a lot more demand, not a lot more supply. When demand increases and supply does not, what happens to the price? That's why we trade the markets, right? Because supply and demand, support and resistance, all that information can provide some incredible gains. Bitcoin is no different. All right. Good. I like it. RGLD. There we go. Pop that one up before we move on to the overall markets. And there's RGLD. You got a great forecast here. The question is, what is VantagePoint saying right now? Well, VantagePoint is saying we got a resistance level that we're trying to beat on RGLD. VantagePoint has predicted momentum across the board, saying bullishness. That resistance level is causing a little bit of hesitation, and the fact that gold has that resistance and gold is peeling back today and was expected to peel back today, you could see that RGLD could be expected. Look at percent R. Percent R topped off and now is this is like a car coming up to a stop sign, right? They leave the green light, they speed up, go. They see the stop sign, they switch from the gas to the brake, and now they start to slow down to brake before they stop and then get to go again. That's how I see momentum in my mind, is that's how like the momentum of the car works. You get over this hill and the car is shifted forward because we're starting to slow down, right? I like to use analogies. If you're new to any of my education, then you know that analogies are the way that I like to walk through this, right? That's something that I feel like gets people to understand a little bit easier. All right. Hey Todd, not sure what you're saying. You just said the candle prediction. Oh, let me see if I got something up here. I don't see anything else in the chats. Terry, I see your chat here. The explanation and strategy on how to interpret one-day indicators and momentum was great to trade futures. Need to hear it again, though. Love that. Yeah, that candle prediction means volatility. There you go, Todd. Thank you for finishing that. The size of that candle, huge compared to these candles. Better yet, take a look at this. Let me show you something. I'm going to put on volume. And you know what I'll put on top of volume? I'm going to put on ATR. I'm going to put on average true range. And the reason I do that is because you can see whether you're getting bullish increasing volume or not. And you are. But you're also getting an increase in candle ranges. That ATR, that average true range, has gone up drastically lately. The increase in ATR traditionally means a pullback. This is predicted ATR. As candles get bigger, markets get more bearish. Volatility can cause more bearishness. Now, it's not 100% the case, right? Sometimes high volatility and very strong bullish markets with bullish momentum can make prices climb. I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying in this example, that's not what we have. As I said, we already have some momentum indicators peeling off a bit, which means I don't have a high momentum case at the same time that I have an increased ATR. A little difference there. But here's RGLD for you. When you look at RGLD, Barbara, you can see that there was a great forecast on RGLD. It's pulling back at this point. We need to see things reverse. And because this is driven by gold, if I bring up the intermarkets for RGLD, you will certainly, without a doubt, see gold in that intermarket. Let me show you. Oh, I did it again. There you go. There's gold, right? Here's market vectors, gold miners as well. Here's junior miners. So we got several gold things influence RGLD, as well as some competitors like Newmont and Agnico Eagle Mines, right? You guys can see that SSR Mines. So there's a lot of stuff influencing RGLD, and they're all tied to gold, and not all. A lot of them are tied to gold, and gold is pulling back, so we can expect that pullback here. All right. All right. Let's go take a look at the ES and make sure that we can finish our gold, Bitcoin, and the stock market session today, because I think this has been a good session. I want to dig into the details a little bit. We're going to bring up all three. Here's the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. We'll pop them all up on the screen and walk through them, starting with the Dow. The Dow had the expectation of having the weakest performance of the day, still predicting a higher high and a higher low, but the overall trend was the weakest. Look, check this out. This is a triple crossover. This is an indicator that highlights 3 predicted moving averages. And you can see when they've got some spread and it's green, you got major bullishness. When they start to come together, it could turn yellow and you got consolidation. If I flipped it the other way, you'd see red. Well, we got major consolidation on the long-term forecast, the 3-day forecast on the Dow, which is a weak forecast. It means sideways price movements. But we have a high and a low that are expected to be higher, which means we could have prices float a little bit bullishly. So we got bullish consolidation on the Dow. We have the support point that was hit here and then tested and it's been failed every single time, which means prices could float higher. Although the strength is kind of weak here, which means prices aren't going to float high really fast. There's no rally expected today for the Dow. Matter of fact, the overall trend is still trying to figure things out, but we don't have a whole lot of bearishness. Our momentum indicators are in a channel pointing sideways. So we've got consolidation across the board. With the fact that support has failed, we can expect it to push prices higher, and it's expected to float higher, right? Maybe less than 0.5%. When I say float, that could be less than 0.5%. When I say consolidated, that's just over 0.5% to 1%. What we're seeing here is just a little bit of an increase in the Dow. Not any trend reversal expected. This is the Dow figuring out life. Now, in case you didn't know, from an electionomics standpoint, yeah, look that up. Electionomics standpoint, over the last 123 years during an election year where you have a Democratic incumbent president, March is the strongest month of the year. That's a seasonal stat that you may want to know, right? That's a seasonal stat that a lot of people aren't aware of, but it is a seasonal stat that can certainly help you understand what's going on and what could be expected for the rest of this month. Understand something. If we see that happen and we see the markets float higher and trend higher and even rally, what would we expect gold to do? Go to the chat box really quick. Answer that question. If the markets rally bullishly, what would we expect to happen with the gold price? Let me know. There is a real-time market correlation. It's an inverse correlation. And what does that mean for gold price? Yes, Todd, I see your message. MicroStrategy affects the change in Bitcoin because of their ownership. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I was getting at earlier when we were talking about MicroStrategy. And that's why I brought it into the Bitcoin conversation. Thank you. Again, the question on the table, whether you're in Facebook or whether you're in YouTube, the question on the table is, what would you expect gold to do if the markets rally bullishly? There you go, Barbaro. Not sure why you're on the sideline. You've been on point on these questions. Maybe the market volatility has you on the sideline, but I love the way you're thinking about things, and you're certainly analyzing this information the right way. All right. All right. There you go, Terry. Thank you for jumping in. Love the interaction here. Chris, so if the markets rally, you wouldn't see gold go up with them, right? There you go. AU price. Thank you, Shino. I appreciate that. Mojo, bearish. Akshaya down. Okay, that real-time market relationship is there. It's there. So if the markets rally, you could see a pullback in gold. People will shift their money from gold to the markets, and that's one of the things that's important. Let's see, because something is not priced in by the market. I see what you're saying. You just got to remember that there's an inverse relationship between gold and the market. It's not consistent all year long. But gold is, have you ever heard it called, there you go. Akshaya said gold is a safety trade. Have you ever heard gold being called a safety haven? The reason for that is because when people are not sure about the market, they turn to gold. That's pushed gold prices high. Well, as the market rallies, people get more confident around the markets and shift from gold to the stock market. That's why that inverse relationship exists so strongly. Guess what? Now everybody understands how powerful intermarket analysis is. That is a relationship that everybody can see with the naked eye. Could you imagine if you could do that kind of analysis day in and day out, but hidden patterns and relationships. That's what the artificial intelligence in VantagePoint does. The AI is doing that analysis to figure out how those things are influencing what you're trying to trade. All right, let's move on. Let's go take a look over here at, what do we got next? The NASDAQ. What is VantagePoint saying about the NASDAQ? The NQ was expected to be the strongest of the markets today. I'm going to go to my long-term predicted indicator. We got a crossover here, a touch on that, consolidation on that. I like it, Krish. Krish says Bitcoin is the new safety haven as of now. That could be it. That could be it, right? At least the Bitcoin ETFs, a lot of people are turning to those. But back to the NASDAQ. We got consolidation on the NASDAQ. We got things trying to reverse on the NASDAQ, but we have a support point here that was verified with another support point just under it with 4 candles not able to get down there. The question is, do we have a 52-week high on this NASDAQ pushing down on price because price is trying to push higher? 52-week high on this. Let me just pull up the NASDAQ here. We're going to look at the continuous market and check our 52-week high and cross-check it. There we go. Ooh, yeah, look at that. 2 days ago. And then prices couldn't even stay up there, which means we would see the NASDAQ fight to get back above that 52-week high again. The likelihood that it gets back above that 52-week high today is down. Why? Because momentum is peeled off. Strength has peeled off. We don't have a long-term reversal expected just yet for the NASDAQ, but we are seeing some major concerns around the NASDAQ being able to move higher. That doesn't mean it's going to drop. That means that there is some short-term weakness in the trend, as well as some uncertainty around price, right? Same thing from a ES 500. Here's the E-mini S&P, and I just looked at the time. I'm at 12:29. If you want to pop in a couple of tickers while I'm doing the ES, I'm happy to pull up a couple here in the next few minutes. I try to keep these live sessions to an hour so that, it's a lot of information I provide, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure you're able to walk away with a couple golden nuggets. So if there's a ticker, if there's a ticker or something that you want me to look at really fast, I'm happy to do that once I'm done here with the ES. So here's the S&P 500. We've got some consolidation in that trend. The triple crossover indicates some bullishness with a little consolidation working itself in. So the ES, again, expected to have a little bit of a bullish tendency to it. We got our momentum indicators sideways. The momentum indicator was the same place it was 3.5 today as it was 3.5 for 3 of the momentum indicators. And we got bearishness on the long-term and the medium-term momentum indicators. So we're seeing some pullback and some consolidation, which means we could see the ES predicted high is expected to be 52.07. 52.07 was the expected high. Based on what's going on with gold and that precipitous drop, we could see it go higher than 52.07. A drop like that in gold, because of the inverse relationships, will push the markets up higher and faster. You see, folks, these real-time market correlations, they are there. They are real, and they're impacting what you're trying to trade day in and day out, and I think you realize that. The question is, do you have the tools and the information that actually use that information? If you don't, and you want to ask about it, then go to VantagePointForecast.com. If you do, thank you for being part of the VantagePoint family, and if you need some help doing some analysis, reach out to us in VantagePoint University. Glad to help. Pegasus, here's Tilray, nothing doing here. We still have some overall bearishness expected on Tilray. It's been going down quite substantially. There is one saving grace, though. There was a support point set down here recently. I don't know if this is a 52-week low. If it is a 52-week low, it's not. I was going to say if it is a 52-week low, then we could see some bullishness push off of that. But this support point is still valid. If we can get stronger momentum building into this, then we could see a potential reversal in Tilray. But right now, we would expect Tilray to float sideways and bearishly today based on what we were seeing in the forecast last night. All right. Krish, SQQQ. Well, that's just going to be the opposite, right? SQQQ is an inverse leverage bear ETF off of the Qs. So that's going to be the opposite of what we were just looking at on the Qs. Barbaro says Nvidia is my favorite. All right. Let's take a look at Nvidia. Really nice trend on Nvidia. That trend over here on the end is weakening a bit. Earnings try to take out this trend, couldn't do it. You can see the intermarkets took back over after earnings, and the trend kept on rolling, and that's one of the things that a lot of traders like to understand. Whether you trade through earnings or not, you can see how this long-term trend prediction could have helped you identify that this trend is expected to stay bullish and was expected to stay bullish and stayed bullish for a long time. And you can see today was expecting a higher high and a higher low, right? So overall, the bullishness in this trend was here to stay. From a medium-term crossover standpoint, consolidation. From a long-term crossover standpoint, consolidation but bullish. And short-term crossover, we got a little cross to the downside on the short term. So from a day trading standpoint, there was certainly an opportunity to make money to the downside early in the day. That has come to an end based on this, and we can see there's overall bullish forecast expected moving forward on Nvidia. Barbaro. All right, Pegasus U2. SMCI, let's look. SMCI, super microcomputer technology. This is one of those markets that's been moving very bullishly for quite some time as well. Although, looking at this, we can see we got certainly some bearishness going on here. Now, the NASDAQ is up strong because gold is down strong, so that's going to help SMCI. Overall, we don't have a trend reversal expected yet, but we did have some consolidation expected, with VantagePoint saying we could see SMCI at 1129. Again, I go back to that real-time relationship with gold. This is why it's so important that you understand that. Gold is pushing lower pretty strong, which means technology or the market is going to push higher. VantagePoint was not forecasting a reversal, and it forecasted a higher high and a higher low today, and we're getting exactly that. So that's good information for you there, Pegasus. Terry, XLE, and this will be the last one I can do. As you can tell, I've sped up my pace because of time, but I do want to get to as many of these as we can. All right, there we go. Here's XLE. This is the energy sector ETF. I love this ETF for a couple of reasons. It can really give you some insight into the energy sector as far as trading energy stocks. But as an ETF trader, an options trade, getting a long call back here when this forecast was saying bullishness at 82 bucks, with a strike price around 85 bucks or 83 bucks, whatever the case is, produced very, very well. And currently, VantagePoint is indicating still more bullishness. As a matter of fact, all the predictive indicators that we're looking at right now are saying bullishness in this overall trend. So we're expecting XLE to move higher. We do have a resistance breakout. This resistance level was set here, broken here. 1, 2 confirming closes above it, saying we can see prices stay up here and then move higher once that settling or consolidation takes place. So that's it for me. I appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. It's just an awesome opportunity for us to show you the power of VantagePoint, but more importantly, give you insight into the markets from a VantagePoint perspective. I've been involved in the markets for over 25 years. I don't know it all, but I'm happy to share with you from an educational standpoint what I've learned in that time. So thank you for being here, and thank you for letting me give you the view from my vantage point. Have a